Hi, we're Diarrhea Planet from Nashville, Tennessee.
And I'm Bob Orrall from Infinity Cat Recordings, Nashville, Tennessee. So let's talk about the record, how it got written and recorded and stuff.
This new record, I wouldn't necessarily call it a departure for us, but it is a little different in the sense that our past two full-length LPs were written from songs that we had on the back burner because we spent so much time touring, whereas this one was the first time we took time off from touring to write all new songs for a new record.
You know, when you guys went in the studio, because a lot of people ask me about this, like, how, you know, what do? You go through like 50 songs and listen to them all, and I try to explain that we don't, the way Infinity Cat works, I didn't hear anything till the record was completely done and mastered, and that's kind of a departure from the way most labels work. Does that work out all right for you?
Yeah,
Does that put a lot of pressure on you?
Yeah, you know, it's pretty nice. It's keeps it pretty light, keeps it pretty easy. Going on what Emmett said, yeah, it was just kind of like we didn't go in with like 50 songs or anything like that. We just kind of kept writing and working on everything till it was like we felt like it was like, all right, this is good, we like it, and so we kind of just started out with like a bunch of ideas and just kind of worked them through till we felt like they were finished.
Okay.
It was great having the freedom to go into the studio at the time we did. Working on a pretty loose schedule. It was nice. We had to delay it a few times to make sure the songs were just right. So thanks for being really cool about that, Bob.
Yeah.
Hey, that's just like
it's nice.
Yeah.
I have a question. I have a question for Ian.
Thanks for trusting
So
us.
when the recording started, did you feel unprepared or nervous or both?
Was definitely nervous, but felt very prepared.
Okay.
Preparedness was through the roof.
This is our first record with Ian.
Yeah, I just got out of high school.
You know
so
that,
it's been
Bob, but
really fun year for me.
everybody, and so we were. I can't speak for everyone. I was a little nervous. We kind of threw him into the deep end straight out of the gate with a lot of touring, and he'd filled in with us a couple of times, but he played it really cool. It turned out really well. We're all very pleased.
I'd just like to point out what a handsome young man he's become.
Yeah, strong though, isn't he?
He's really grown up a lot.
Yeah,
since,
we've really seen
this
him.
last
Really,
year.
we've seen you just mature and.
Starting to get some stubble coming in. Getting into the studio side of things, Vance was very easy to work with. It was absolutely a joy to be able to explain a sound that you hear in your head to somebody and have them say, "Give me a few minutes." Leave the room, come back, and it's like perfect, like every time. Vance and Mike Fahey were just astounding, and the quickness that they work with, sort of the diligence they do everything with. They were very trustworthy in that. You know, if they thought a take was great, it's like it didn't feel the need to keep going farther. It was like, all right, I totally trust you, man. And they just kind of are a team that keeps proving over and over that we can trust him. He's wonderful to work with.
I think
Do you agree with that, Mike?
I agree. I was pretty happy to work with Vance because I think it's the first record that you can hear the bass.
Great bass, great bass tone.
I think the thing
Made
that
it easy for me.
kind of set it apart for me. I don't know if it was the same for you. I feel like a lot of the stuff that we have recorded in the past, we may not have the most specific idea of what exactly we're going for sonically, or like sometimes trying to get different sounds or stuff like that. And this time around, I feel like there was a lot more room left for us to kind of just do what we would normally do. Whereas I feel like in the past, sometimes the producers would try to EQ stuff a little differently or try to throw in some effects that maybe we wouldn't normally use, which I think is really cool because it is, it changes it up. But on a lot of levels, at least for me, I think part of what sets us apart is the fact that we just are kind of our own thing, and we've all spent a lot of time getting the sounds we want out of our gear and all that stuff. So I think Vance knowing when to maybe step in and try to kind of herd the cats, and then also knowing when not to intervene, I think was maybe more important, because I feel like a lot of times just having somebody to try to capture what we're trying to do is maybe more crucial than somebody recording it and then going back and trying to edit everything. I feel like it kind of loses some of the rawness, which I couldn't really articulate at the time, but looking back on it, I think that's maybe what I like the most about working with Mike and Vance.
I want to ask you this. The album is called Turning to Gold. Turn to Gold. I'm sorry. The front door is Turning to Gold.
Turning Gold.
So it's Turn to Gold. And so let's go. Why? Let's hear why.
Why not, dude?
Well, we were tossing around a lot of names, and Evan came up with Turn to Gold.
Gold's my favorite color, too.
Yeah,
so.
Brent's favorite color.
This is a no-brainer.
Kind of stuck with the riches theme,
Sure,
like Loose
yes,
Jewels,
yeah.
I'm Rich, and Turn to Gold. We were both all reading a lot of mythology, and we really liked King Midas a lot.
It's a great lesson to be learned there.
Yeah, really great lesson to be learned. The Wealth of God didn't pass. I was kind of pushing for that one.
Black
pretty hard.
Album was already taken, so
When our
we had
sound,
to-
once we expand our sound,
Let's hear some other titles you tossed out.
Panic at the Disco, self-titled.
Taste
Was
what
already taken.
burns.
taste what burns. Yes.
So Infinity Cat was started 13 years ago, 14 come this July, by Jake Orrall and Jamin Orrall and me. I'm their dad, and they were 16 and 14 and just said, hey, let's start a record label for us and all our friends. And I thought that'll be a great thing to do with my kids on the weekend. And now it's 14 years later, and we're on our 113th release. And of course we're vinyl centric. We don't even make a CD component except for promotion anymore. The purpose of the label was always to lift bands that we love up to a local, up to a national or an international platform, and then if they wanted to stick around after a couple of records, they could. If they needed to leave the nest and fly, they could. I really, really am impressed at these guys after fulfilling their 2-album commitment. Other major labels are laughing at me right now. 2 albums, that's about when they get popular, isn't it? But after those 2 albums, these guys put out an EP and then gave me the really exciting news that they came back for a couple more. So this is the first of 2, and we're expecting greatness.
I think a big proponent of us continuing to work with Infinity Cat has just been the way that they do everything is kind of the way I feel like we wish that everyone did it. And, you know, from a standpoint of you guys never are beating down our doors, putting pressure, putting us through awkward business stuff, putting us through, you know, weird situations. No one's ever yelling, getting mad, nothing.
Besides this interview, maybe. But.
Yeah, you know, you know, it's one of those things that it's like, it just kind of fits the mold of the band. Like, we've continued working with them. They have a very DIY approach. They understand what it's like to work with scarce resources, to stretch a budget, to work hard. Yeah, you know, but it's like they get what it's like to do, you know, to kind of push for that sort of a thing. And a lot of the other folks we've talked to don't get that, and so that's one of the reasons why we just have continued to come back, is because what Infinity Cat does sort of lines up with our ethos a lot more, I feel like, than a lot of the other folks we did. There was just too much compromise with everyone else, and it's hard to leave home.
Good to know. And like I said before, the reason we don't listen to songs and go through the catalog and say you need this and you don't have an up tempo you don't have this or that, is because we wouldn't have signed the band if we didn't trust them in the first place. I mean, all of our artists go in the studio. I don't visit the studio. I get the joy of hearing the final record, which is the reason that I'm in this business to begin with, is because I love listening to great records. And
Diarrhea Planet was kind of born out of a place where, you know, we decided to pick a name that would frustrate everyone, and a lot of that was based on the fact that we were having trouble getting shows because we went to Belmont, and then also because we weren't playing commercial music, we couldn't play at Belmont really. And so it was one of the things that we were kind of in this weird no man's land where we had kind of 2 sides of something sort of rejecting us. And our other bands, we had a lot of struggle, and we were like, well, you know what? Like, if it's going to be this hard out the gate anyway, why don't we just come up with, like, the stupidest band name ever? And so we kind of did that, and, you know, like, intended for it to be a joke that it turned into something that's, you know, a real thing, I guess, and slowly started adding members, and now we've been doing this for, like, almost 7 years now. So it's kind of crazy. But yeah, it was born out of a place of frustration at just sort of our surroundings at the time.
Hey, and Jordan, actually, interned at Infinity Cat, and I was hearing this great music, and I was like,
Ian
you
did
know,
too.
because it's, you know, it's like obviously this is like something that's right for the label he's interning at, but I said, as long as you have that name, there's no way we're signing you to this label, because that's like my least favorite word in the entire English language. And then my son Jake said, hey, well, you know, you have to come see them play Friday night. They're playing with us. And I went and saw them, and I walked from the end of the show to backstage and said, all right, let's do this, because the show is just insanely amazing live. So congratulations.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, congratulations.